This is Poppy and Rye Chapter 15. Chapter 15 is called Rye in the Lodge. When Rye had swum into the lodge, she was too exhausted to offer any resistance to Mr. Canad, and by the time he did recover his strength, it was too late. The beaver had quickly constructed a cage of maple twigs and hard-packed mud, shoveled the exhausted mouse into it with his tail, and then sealed the whole thing up. Rye was a prisoner. "Well now, pal," Mr. Canad said with his usual heartiness. "The name is Castor P. Canad. Feel free to call me Cass. What's your name?" Rye wretched gazed mournfully up at the large beaver from behind the bars of the cage. Said, "Rye." "Absolutely delighted to meet you, pal," Mr. Canad, enthusiastic with a big grin. "Where do you live?" "I used to live by the side of the brook." "Moved away, did you?" Rye's eyes filled with angry tears. "You forced us to." "Me? Forced you? Not me. You could have stayed." "We would have drowned." "Hey, pal, that's your choice. Life isn't fair. No one promised you a rose garden. Take the good with the bad, the sweet with the sour. It all works out in the end." Mr. Canad offered another toothy smile. "Okay," he went on. "Let's cut to the chase. What made you come in here?" Rye, glowering, looked up at the enormous beaver. "To get rid of you." "Hey, pal, you aren't the violent type, are you? Making me nervous." The beaver grinned. "Where do you live now?" "Up by the boulder." "A boulder? That a fact? Exactly where?" "On the ridge overlooking the pond." Mr. Canad's heart fluttered. "Not by any chance that boulder right on the ridge that's got a bunch of plants growing around it?" "Yes," Rye answered. "Well, bless my teeth and smooth my tail," Mr. Canad glowered. "There's a piece of luck. Do you live alone?" "My whole family." "Your whole family," the beaver said. "Better and better. Family man myself, I love families. This is a good day." Mr. Canad was thinking furiously. Here is a representative of the last mouse family, a violent type. He breaks in here. Okay, I'll use him to persuade them to move on their own, and I would keep my reputation for progress without pain. "Why is it a good day?" Rye demanded, becoming alarmed. "What are you going to do to my family?" "Hey, pal," Mr. Canad cried. "Nothing to worry about. I haven't the slightest intention of harming you or your family. You'll be as right as the rain, tip-top, as the day is long. I am straight as a ruler." Rye, staring furiously at the large beaver, said, "How can you say that when you've ruined everything?" "Not everything, pal," Mr. Canad said. "The sun still shines, doesn't it? The moon glows. Admit it, life goes on. We just changed up a few things, pal. When you stop looking at things selfishly, when you see the big picture, you're going to have to agree that Castor P. Canad tells it like it is. But for now, you're going to have to excuse me while I fetch my family. We need to have a meeting to decide what to do with you." When Mr. Canad plunged off the ledge, he swam out of the lodge by way of the entry hole. Alone and depressed, Rye sat within the cage and clutched the twig bars listlessly. He was much angrier at himself than he was at Mr. Canad. Not only had he failed to do what he set to do, his capture would be hard for his parents. As for Poppy, when she learned what he had done, Rye had little doubt that she would think of him as a fool. And she was right. He was a fool. For what Rye had tried to do was sneak and break in the bars of his cage. He rattled them, he chewed on them, but they were made of maple wood, which was too hard to cut quickly. When he attempted to dig in the mud that held the twigs to see if he might be able to escape, that too proved as a failure. Mr. Canad had packed it down hard. Rye had no choice but to wait and see what the beavers did. He didn't want to wait too long. Members of the Canad family came into the lodge and examined him. "Isn't he nasty?" one of them said. "What a puny little fellow he is," another said. "I wonder what he expected to do to us," a third said with a giggle. "He's so weak." Rye, sulking, shrank into a corner of his cage. Mr. Canad, standing next to the cage, called his company to order. Once in a blue moon, he began, beavers find themselves placed to do great things. But if big things are done, Castor P. Canad & Co. will be the one to do them. Hear, hear, murmured the beavers. Way to go, Cass, said another. All right then, Mr. Canad continued. We're ready to move forward and expand Canad's cute condos into something grander. How about a lake? Wow, fantastic, too cool. Beaming, Mr. Canad went on. Of course, we'll call it Lake Canad. Here are the plans. He gestured towards the drawing on the bark. To make a lake, we'll need to put a dam over by the boulder here. Turns out, a mouse and their family live under that boulder. Okay, we could just go ahead and build. They'd be flooded out. But that's not our way, is it? Canad & Co. has a reputation for being sensitive. It's important to keep that notion afloat. We need those mice to leave on their own. And there was some beating of the tails. Okay, so how are we going to persuade these mice to move? No problem. Luck comes to those who work hard. Genius is 90% of the perspiration, 10% inspiration. Good thing I've got a whole 100%. Now we have a visitor, a fine young mouse. Mr. Canad rapped on the cage. Goes by the name of Rye. Rye and his family live right under the boulder that we've got our eye on. Keep going, Cass, one of the beavers called out, beating his tail on the ground. Okay, I'm going to go mosey on up and have a chat with these mice. Tell them that my pal is here visiting with us. And, Mr. Canad added with a toothy smile, if they want to see him again, they'd better move. Hey, he said, grinning, you know what they say. Walk softly, but carry a big stick in your mouth. You said you wouldn't hurt me, Rye cried out. Easy does it, pal. Not saying I am going to hurt you. Remember, you broke in here. You're the violent one. I'll just warn your folks that unless they make amends by moving away, they won't ever get to see you again. Get it? They're free of choice. And I mean that sincerely. And his family applauded wildly. Mr. Canad grinned.